Welcome back to the channel and to another Chelsea Academy match report, this time from the under-21s who faced PSG under-21s in the Premier League International Cup last night. Unfortunately, ended up 3-1 losers, a disappointing way to end the season, or end the year, sorry. This is the Chelsea under-21s final game of the calendar year, final game of 2025. So disappointing to see them end on a loss, and that makes it 2 losses out of 2 games in the Premier League International Cup so far after they lost to Dinamo Zagreb earlier this year. Still 2 games remaining for Chelsea in the competition against Benfica and Real Sociedad under-21 sides. They will happen early next year, and you will of course get coverage from those games. But let's dive straight into it, and we will do so with the starting lineup. There were a couple of notable names in the first 11 for Chelsea yesterday, none more so than Axel Disasi, and it was good to have a player of Axel Disasi's calibre, his experience in the back line. I think his assurance at the back, without Axel Disasi, without the presence of Axel Disasi there yesterday, I think it probably could have been a few more than 3. I think it probably could have been 4 or 5. I think Axel Disasi, the experience that he brings and leadership that he brings to that team. First off, I just want to commend him for his model professionalism, because I think the way in which, his career, his situation has been handled hasn't been the most graceful by the club. Not that we, owe him anything more, considering he's still getting money paid into his account every single week. That being said, I think he has handled being in the bomb squad and, playing with the under-21s with the utmost professionalism. So credit where credit is due. And I think he was one of a few players yesterday that I was fairly impressed with. And it on the face of it, I think the game was a lot closer than 3-1. I mean, the scoreline does make it seem like it was a little bit more one side than it was. I think the first half in particular, I think both sides started incredibly sharply, particularly lively start from PSG, and going forward, I think they were extremely dangerous. I think it wasn't so much our mistakes or our lack of quality at the back. I think it was just testament to the quality of the PSG side. The first 2 goals scored on the counter-attack, and then the third goal scored just after Shim Mheuka pulled one back, really, really close range. I can't remember the name of the player that scored the second and third, but he was incredibly good with the ball at his feet, incredibly quick. Believe he was a young Moroccan player as well, so fingers crossed that we see more of them alongside Ibrahim Rabaj, if that's what he's got to look forward to in the Morocco under-17, 18 teams and higher up. Then yeah, this Morocco might be a dark horse in tournaments to come, particularly given that they're co-hosting the 2030 World Cup. But yeah, I thought PSG were very, very tidy on the ball. I thought the way in which they move the ball around, I thought they were just popping it about. Very, very good quality. It was intense. It was aggressive. I think Chelsea matched that for the majority of the game. I think we did extremely well to be able to take the game to them. They were very evidently a very, very good quality team with very, very good quality players. So I think for Chelsea to take the game to them, and particularly after the first 5-10 minutes where PSG kind of dominated, Chelsea crept in. And I think even though Max Merrick had a couple of early scares, a couple of early saves, I think the majority of the clear-cut chances created, or majority of chances created in the first half particularly, were for Chelsea. I think Touranian had a really good chance where he had really good footwork, just unable to squeeze the shot past the goalkeeper. I thought Richards, Washington, while they were fairly tame efforts, they tested the keeper fairly early on. But the player that most impressed me in the first half was Sam Raksaki. Now, Sam Raksaki, obviously Chelsea fans will be familiar with, because he has made his first team appearance for Chelsea under Enzo Maresca last year, made his debut in the Conference League, made a couple of appearances actually. And since then, it's kind of been, where's he gone? What's the next step? I think he got those first couple of appearances under his belt. Chelsea fans were fairly impressed. I was fairly impressed. And then he was kind of superseded by Reggie Walsh. Not that they are the same player, because I think they play in different positions within centre midfield. Raksaki I see a little bit deeper. Reggie Walsh is a little bit higher. While we're on the subject, he was a player, incidentally, that I think really struggled last night. The manager was very vocal on the sidelines, and particularly being unhappy with Reggie Walsh's counter-pressing. He wasn't doing enough. He kept calling him out. He called him out a lot. And I think part of that is because they hold him to such a high standard, because he has obviously, made that jump, made that leap that a lot of academy players haven't. He is, now in the Venn diagram, he's obviously got those overlapping circles whereby you're expecting a little bit more from him if he wants to kick on and be part of this first team under Enzo Maresca. So I think it wasn't his best game last night. I think, like I said, they ask more of him than they do of the average player. But I think that the coach was quite vocal about not being particularly pleased with Reggie Walsh last night. And I think Sam Raksaki, particularly in the first half, I think picked up a lot of that slack. And I think he was very, very cool, calm, collected, when the game kind of, as time went on, the game got increasingly intense and aggressive, and the ref let a couple of potential fouls go, a couple of big strong tackles go, and immediately PSG started pushing back, started throwing men in there, and I think Raksaki brought a real level-headedness to the midfield that was necessary for Chelsea to stay composed in that first half. We, as I said, the more we grew into the game, the more time went on, the more we grew into the game, the better the chances became. And I think it was about 38, 39 minutes where the best chance of the game so far happened, and it was David Washington, who was fairly quiet, and another player who I've been fairly critical of, similar to Reggie Walsh, because when I've watched him in the unders, this is a player that's played first team football, that has got the call up. We paid 17 mil for this guy, and this is someone that I'm expecting big things from, particularly when they're playing in an academy scenario. So David Washington, I was quite disappointed with the lack of involvement in the first half an hour, but then he set up a really, really good chance for Frankie Runham, who had a cross deflected into the goalkeeper's hands. But Raksaki was the one that was dictating. He was the one in the centre of the park that was making things tick, and that essentially ensured that we went in to the second half, or went into half time at 0-0. And of course, it was a bit of an explosion in the second half, all 4 goals coming in the second half. And I have to hold my hands up past 60 minutes. I didn't get to watch, I wasn't watching too closely because obviously Chelsea were on as well. Although I was disillusioned with that game after 2 minutes, and it was not a good day to be doing a double whammy. Lucky I didn't do a double whammy stream. It was not a good day to be watching 2 Chelsea games at once. Unfortunately, 2 defeats at the same time. But again, similarly, bright early start, I think, from both teams in the second half. Again, slightly brighter from PSG. Reggie had a good chance on 49, and then 51 minutes, great goal on the counter from PSG. Again, I think I could sit here and try and criticise our discipline and say maybe we should have got back, maybe we should have tracked our runners. I think the first 2 goals were fantastic. They were excellently well taken, particularly the second one. Very, very well taken. Great individual quality. Very well worked. I already said that they popped the ball around really well, PSG. And I think particularly in the second half, there was an extra bit of impetus. They were doing it particularly quickly. And, Chelsea really, really struggled to essentially keep up with that. And we tried to get back in the game. I don't think it was game over at 1-0. Chelsea had a good couple of chances just before we brought on a few subs at 60 minutes. Chelsea had a really good chance creating a 3 versus 2, but Runham put it over. He was a player that I think he was probably our most involved in the attack. Maybe him or Richards, actually. But I think he didn't have his shooting boots on. I don't think he had a poor game, but I don't think he had his shooting boots on. And I think he will be disappointed having not at least come off with, a goal or an assist. I think Frankie Runham got the ball in quite a few dangerous areas, and to not come out of that game with a goal contribution, I don't think we're disappointed, but I think he will probably be disappointed with himself, because we all know the quality that is there with players like Frankie Runham. But Walsh, Runham, Touranian and Washington all off at 60 minutes for Mardi Nicola-Yazuli, Atto Ampa, Shim Mheuka and Charlie Holland, who made his first appearance for the under-21s and got an assist as well, if you can call it an assist. I mean, technically, by the letter of the law, by the law of the game, it wasn't an assist. And Shim Mheuka did bag another goal with a bit of help from the goalkeeper. I mean, it's one of those where the goalkeeper's done so poorly letting it squirm under him, you're hard-pressed not to give it as an own goal. But it does go down as a Shim Mheuka goal, and it took Shim just 15 minutes to score. Unfortunately, it was after PSG had made it 2-0. PSG made it 2-0 on 66. As I said, great finish on the counter. And after that, we saw a trialist come on, Joe McCallum, come on for Genesis Hantwe around 70 minutes. So he got 20 minutes. I don't know too much about him, but I believe he signed his first professional contract at Coventry City in July of this season, and he impressed. I think he's 17 years old. He impressed in the under-18s, the under-21s, signed a scholarship in 2023, and now obviously with that having finished being 2 years on, he signed to Coventry in June, but it looks like he is now looking for a club. I believe he had already made one substitute appearance for Chelsea previously, and he did come on as a sub yesterday again. I'll be honest, I can't comment because at that point, 70 minutes on, I was watching the first team, but looks like a solid talent from what I've read, from what I've seen of him, from what I've heard. Looks like a fairly tidy player, so I'll be interested to see and hear a little bit more about him if he does appear in the new year. But that was kind of the dagger, I think, the knife in Chelsea's side, that second goal. As I've said, Shim managed to pull one back on 74, but PSG then went and scored immediately. And after that third goal, I think it was pretty much game, set and match. Richards had a really good chance, came as his trademark movement or his trademark pattern, coming in off the right, shooting on his left. Really, really good shot, forced a really, really good save from the PSG keeper, but unfortunately just not enough. And then similarly in the last minute, 92nd minute, Mardi Nicole Yazuli had a chance sliding in on a through ball. Did test the keeper. Keeper made a diving save on the floor, but unfortunately wasn't able to close that gap. So full time it finished 3-1 to PSG. As I've said, disappointing way for Chelsea to end the season, or end the year, sorry. This was our final under-21 game of the calendar year of 2025. But there are still 2 games to play in the Premier League International Cup. Like I said, Benfica and Real Sociedad under-21 next year. Fingers crossed, more positivity. I like the fact that Chelsea are putting these players, Charlie Holland, Mardi Nicole Yazuli, Shim Mheuka, 15, 16, 17 years old. I like the fact that these guys are playing in, it's not even an under-21 squad, it's an under-23 squad. I think it shows great development for them. And again, it's a different competition, it's a different experience. These teams are some of the best teams in the world. And while the under-18 Premier League and the under-21 Premier League 2, is stacked full of talent across England, it's a fantastic experience for these Chelsea youngsters to also play. I know they're not travelling, I know it is still based in England, but to play against these teams that they wouldn't otherwise play against, I think that game last night really shows just how far they've got to go in terms of, it's all well and good being comfortable at the top of the English game, of being, comfortably one of the best academies in England, consistently year in, year out, being able to just kind of produce without really having to think about it. But then when you come up against teams like PSG, Dynamo Zagreb, who you might not think sound particularly dangerous, but these teams in Europe are the real tests. And yeah, invaluable learning experience, I think, for the boys. So while, disappointing end to the season or disappointing end to the year, still plenty of positives to take, not least Shim Mheuka just continually scoring. This guy cannot stop scoring, and I'm going to stop saying somebody stop him scoring because I don't want him to stop. This is just the numbers that he's putting up. Club, country, unbelievable. Long may it continue. But yeah, if you watch the game, let me know who you were impressed with most, who you want to see more of in the under-21s next season, obviously next year, sorry. Obviously, congratulations again to Charlie Holland for getting his first call up. Does he deserve more minutes in the under-21s next year? I'd be inclined to say yes, same as Mardi Nicole Yazuli. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest and greatest Chelsea content across the academy, the first team, loan players, and more. If it's got anything to do with Chelsea, is going to be covered on this channel. So make sure, if you're not already, to subscribe. But we got plenty of content on the way. Another busy week, obviously, more first team content this weekend. But before then, I'm going to try and squeeze in another episode of Loan Watch. Loan Watch November on its way. Make sure to follow @twobluespodcast on the Instagram as well to stay plugged in with all the latest news and updates. But until next time, up the Chelsea.